fill a van, pay more. And that there was that question, whether if the vans are not fully utilized. But it's something that can be looked at. The other question I had is if we interact with other agencies like the schools, are there safety and insurance and training issues involved that get pretty complicated?
Well, I know that Benton County does that with the Richland School District. But in terms of hubbing the vehicles, I'm not talking about them using it for school purposes.
Okay.
I'm talking strictly about maintenance collection area. Okay.
Yeah.
If we have, for example, we have 10 vehicles circulating in the Oak Harbor, the North End area. Why drive them back and forth through this empty space when they're either not in service or they're carrying one person when most of their activity is in Oak Harbor? The same way at the South End.
Sure.
Try to eliminate unnecessary mileage on the vehicle. That's the
one other thing I was thinking of is that some of our longest runs, so that they will have sort of lower passenger per mile statistics, are based on the fact that we're a rural system, and our population centers are pretty far apart.
Right.
Including Camino Island.
And there's an example on Camino. You know, we have a sub-hub there.
Yes.
And we should consider possibly having that same model with the South End and at the North End, where we joint venture with the other taxing agencies.
Okay.
Lance, you had some.
Yeah. You're referring to dead-end miles. I understand what you're saying. When you're talking about hubs, a lot of things come into play, but we'll get to that. The other thing I was curious about is, and I remember being somewhat surprised, on the van pools, I would see certain van pool vehicles on holidays and weekends tooling around town in Snohomish County, and I was curious about that. And I asked about it.
Island transit vehicles?
No,
No, not ours.
Actually, community transit vehicles. I'm on that board too. And I asked about it. I said, what are they doing on the weekends? I mean, they're not commuting. They're not taking any commuters. And the answer was, well, they can use them on the weekends. And I thought, that kind of changes the mileage, these vans. I mean, you know, as you go through the process, when you get to so many years and so many miles, well, we need to order more. And I thought certain vans would have false mileage.
Yeah.
If the operator of that van is tooling around with his or her family on the weekends, that's nice. You can have your car parked at home. But who's paying for the fuel? And the wear and tear and the mileage and all that. And I was surprised at that. So anyhow.
Well, I'm happy to hear that it's not on a transit vehicle.
Yeah, Sean?
We have Stacy Jordan, our van pool coordinator here, so she can answer any of those type of questions that you might have.
Pretty strict policy in Island Transit. And it's somewhat self-enforcing because the rest of the riders don't want to pay for somebody else's weekend.
and at least in my understanding of this system, and correct me if I'm misunderstanding what's going on here, Stacy, but I would like to see, it seemed to me it would be more efficient if the payment system came online, came through the main office, and the drivers didn't have to deal with with handling the money, keeping track of that part of it, or turning in those reports. The reporting comes in electronically to the main office, and people then rent their seat in that van, and you know it's paid for. You're not worrying about whether they were riding for 3 days a week or for 50 miles where the rest of the vehicle is going for 200 miles type of thing. Okay.
The way the van poolers are charged is their percentage of the total miles. So somebody starting in Oak Harbor doesn't pay the same as somebody starting in Clinton. it's their percentage of the total miles, and they pay for the entire month, whether they ride 3 days or 5 days. They can be a part-time rider if they're only going to ride 3 days a week or whatever. Their mileage can be reduced to a part-time rider, but they do pay for the seat for the entire month, whether they go on vacation or they're gone on medical leave. If they want to keep their seat in the van, they do pay for the entire month.
So if they're only a part-time rider, let's say they only ride 3 days a week, who's picking up the cost of having that vehicle go down the road for those empty seats? I'm looking at empty seats.
Well, they're still paying, I mean, if they're paying for as part-time, then that's their agreed upon rate, and then the rest of the mileage is divided between everyone else. But they have, the group has that choice of allowing a part-time rider, or they could have 2 part-time riders.
But the cost gets amortized within the group anyway.
Right, within the group, their percentage of the miles. So if you start in Oak Harbor versus Clinton, you're going to be paying more than the person starting in Clinton, because it's your percentage of the miles is less than theirs. And if they go on vacation and they still pay for that seat, they could sublet that seat to somebody else to fill it for the 2 weeks that they're gone, if they choose to do it that way. They could also, the group could say, well, we'll take on a part-time rider, but if we get a full-time rider, then you'll have to give up their seat to them, and we leave it up to the group.
So the other passengers then subsidize the part-time passenger because they are just part-time. Okay, so you have a mileage cost that's determined for that vehicle.
Yeah, we have a minimum fare of, 1,050 miles, based on 1,050 miles, and then it's per month, right? And that is divided between the group based on their percentage of the miles. So if they, I mean, going into it, what your percentage of those total van miles are. And then any extra miles, say there's 4 people working overtime on a weekend, they keep track of those miles for themselves, and only they are charged for those miles.
Okay. And do they pay through the office, or do they handle it through the driver?
There's a bookkeeper in the van, and they prepare the report and collect the funds and send it in. However, currently, the military has gone to a debit card, so most of the payments that they used to send in vouchers is done online, so they'll use their debit card along with their own personal card to pay any extra above their subsidy. And we just went to an automatic deposit with WageWorks, who provides the subsidy vouchers for Boeing and several other companies. So that'll come in as one great big deposit. So the amount of actual personal checks or vouchers that come in has been severely limited. And if they're submitting everything online, then they can submit their report online as well. But individually, they don't do their own reports. It's one report.
Okay. Good. Thanks for that.
It's more advanced than when I was there. Good.
And we don't allow personal miles, so there's no running around on the weekends. Just so you know.
All right. So I think that pretty much takes care of this item. And let's see. Number 3, and for the DOT people who, we put your item at the very end. I'm not sure why we did. Sorry about that. So the next item we go to is the workshop item number 5, which is number 3, the van pool investment program discussion with cost action.
Good follow.
Yeah, so there we go. Are you doing that presentation, Ken?
Okay, I'm sorry, the van pool?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we had a healthy van pool discussion there. We did receive a letter 2 weeks ago regarding the funding available for additional or replacement van pool vans. Kind of a short notice, but nonetheless, we had our information available to determine what our needs are in this particular funding cycle. Also, it's based on what Paul was comfortable with in terms of the amount to be taken out of reserves for the local match. Based on that amount, based on the local match available that Paul suggested, and given the number of vehicles that are beyond their useful lives, we determined that there, at this point in time, there are 24 vehicles available for replacement in the van pool, and you received in your board packet a vehicle roster that shows the vehicles to be replaced. Should be in your packet.
Yeah, color.
Yeah, yes. And again, as board member Hanold had noted, historically, these funds have primarily gone to expansion vehicles rather than replacements. And this is no guarantee by any stretch of the imagination. In previous budget cycles, we have never received the total amount that we requested. So we know not to expect the total amount of 24. It would be probably something somewhat less. But nonetheless, I'm requesting approval to submit an application letter to DOT for 24 replacement vehicles. The local match, total amount to be $627,000. The state match would be $595,000, and the 5% local match would be $31,350. I should say that would be an up to amount.
Maybe they give us 4 and then it's 1/6 of that or something.
Right. But I think it's a great opportunity, as you can see from the fleet roster, that we have a considerable number of vehicles in the fleet that are far beyond their useful mileages, and costing a considerable amount of additional maintenance. And frankly, we are in a period now where we're starting to see more and more on-the-road breakdowns of van pools because of necessary maintenance on the older vehicles. So my request is for board approval of up to $31,350 in local match for the van pool replacements.
All right, I'm going to start this conversation down at your end, Lance. We'll work from left to right.
Yeah, I think it's great that, we can apply for this. What's the non-sold petroleum?
That's alternative fuels. We're going for gas-only vehicles, not the state's definition of the sold petroleum. Sold petroleum is gas-only. Non-sold is alternative fuels.
Would we possibly plug in electric sources? Just maybe perhaps diesel, or?
Well, those would be,
That's included.
that would be a non-sold, or no, that would be a petroleum, I'm sorry. Diesel would be petroleum.
So,
But electric or hybrid or CNG,
okay.
that type.
Well,
Is that all you have, Lance?
yes, thank you.
Okay, Jim?
Oh, I just, like I said, and I'm glad that Rick Hanold looked into this much more than I did, but I think it doesn't hurt to ask. We're not counting on it. And even if they only provide a token number, it would be useful.
And Well, the only thing I'd point out is in your letter here, at least the draft copy I have, it says 24 expansion vans should be replacement, okay, yeah. If you said expansion, it'd probably be easier to get the money with it, right? So, make sure that's for replacement. And it is, yeah, it can't hurt that, I mean, if they say, well, 2. After 24, whatever you get, I'll pay it cost. Yeah, but look at the time shift. Yeah. So, yeah.
I just wanted to explain that they are technically expansion vehicles. If you look in, I don't know if you have a copy of the state's requirement, but there is a section for expansion vehicles that they call switch out vehicles, where you will replace one vehicle with a new vehicle, and then that replaced vehicle will stay in the active program. And so a good number of these vans will go into the loaner program, which is considered still part of the active program. So they are technically expansion vehicles and not replacement.
It's backup vehicle.
Yes.
Technical under the
Under their
program's definition.
correct.
Oh, good.
Jill?
Yeah, well, if that were the case, and we're not retiring them then too, we also got to look at the cost of maintenance rate.
So in our assumptions that we just went over, did we budget for the full 24, our share of the